morning. We're going to get our council meeting underway. We just swore in the state senate, which is great. We'll likely have to take a 5-minute pause sometime in the next 20 or 30 minutes when the House of Representatives is ready for us. I'll ask the council to join me over in chambers of the House to swear that body in as well. So, but given that we're not exactly sure when that will be, we will get underway. We have some pretty cool pre-ceremonial stuff to do today. We're going to honor the Lego League champions, and we have some music to kick us off in the right direction. But before we get any of that underway, I'd ask Councilor Gatzis if he wants to lead us in a prayer pledge.
Everybody to stand and pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a performance this morning. Mikey G is joining us. Good to see you again.
Great to see you.
And I got to be honest, I don't even know if his name is Mikey G. It goes by Mikey G. That's it. So I'm not even going to jump in. And Ray's going to what is this? This is
The standard bass.
the standard bass. Okay,
Double bass.
I'm terrible with my stringed instruments. I get corrected all the time. I call it cello or violin. I call it it's a mess. So this is great. Thank you guys for joining us. Going to do a couple songs.
Yeah.
All right, take us off in the right mood.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight. Have yourself merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. From now on, our troubles will be miles away. Here we are, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are near to us will be near to us once more. In years we all will be together, if the fates allow. Until then, we'll have to muddle through somehow. And have yourself a merry little Christmas now. Here we are, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us will be near to us once more. Through the years, we all will be together, if the fates allow. Hang a shining star upon the highest bough. and have yourself a merry little Christmas now.
Wrap your coat and get your hat. Leave your worries on the doorstep. Just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street. Can't you hear that pitter pat? And the happy tune is in your step. Life could be so sweet on the sunny side of the street. I used to walk in the shade with those blues on parade. I'm happy, I'm not afraid. There's a rover crossed over. If I never have a cent, I'll be rich as Rockefeller. Gold dust at my feet on the sunny side of the street. In the shade with those blues on parade. I'm happy, I'm not afraid. This rover crossed over. If I never have a cent, I'll be rich as Rockefeller. Gold that's at my feet on the sunny side, on the sunny side, on the sunny side of the street.
That was awesome. Here, come on up, company. I'll do it.
Right over there.
If I'm left-handed, I want to play bass. I just string it with me. Do I need a lesson?
But, I mean, you can see.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. Sorry. Okay. Everybody's got a bass. All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Great. Thank you. Thank you guys. Thanks so much. And you got the hat. Okay, so we're also, that was terrific, absolutely terrific. I feel like they should go in the hall and just play with the open case and see what the legislature drops in, right, for coins and money. That might give us a sense whether we can get a budget passed or not. It is Computer Science Education Week, which is a really big deal, especially for us here in New Hampshire. We're always trying to expand not just the computer sciences, but the opportunities for kids. And also this week, I think just this last weekend, we had the winners of our first robotics Lego League from Windham, New Hampshire. You guys want to come up? We'll give them a hand. To represent Computer Science Education Week and kids that are really on the front lines doing a little bit of all that. Come on, man, this is great. Congratulations. Congratulations. Good to see you. Congratulations. Awesome. Now, your team name, I noticed, before we get into, how you did it and what it was all about, the team name was Saucefox. Where does that come from?
Super awesome, unique, creative engineers.
I love it. I love it. That's great. What did you think? Like, did you go into the season thinking, yes, we can win this thing? Was this a surprise to you? Did you feel confident the whole way through? You felt good? Yeah.
We also like when we were there for one, but we also did two lost.
Sure. Now, the program started. When did you guys the season actually start?
The music came out on August 21st.
On August 21st. And was it pretty clear what you wanted to do? Did you guys have to kind of work together to figure out how you wanted to design the robot? Yeah. That's great. That's great. Now, was it just 5? What grade are you guys in? 4th, 5th, 6th? 5th? 5th? 7th? 5th? 7th. So 5th to 7th?
Yeah, I am actually
To 8. Okay. Okay. Now, any teachers involved? Any adult supervision? You guys just hanging out after school? And who's in charge of this? Who's in charge of this motley crew? Oh, the coach is here. I was going to say there has to be a coach somewhere, right? But we all went together. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And who did you meet? Who came in second place? Do you remember? Oh, okay. Well, congratulations to them. Look, one thing I try to emphasize all the time. Whether you're in computer sciences, whether you're a digital coder or whatever you might do for a living, every single kid today and in every future generation is growing up in a digital society. You can be, whether you're running a farm, whether you're actually an accountant, whatever you do, we are surrounded by digital all the time. So having some sense and understanding of the dynamics and the opportunities that surround it are huge. Lego, obviously everyone knows I'm pretty passionate about FIRST Robotics, very passionate about Lego League especially, because that's the version of FIRST Robotics that really gets in with the kids that, if I may, has the most opportunity, right? To not just do something early on, but then let it grow, which is pretty cool. So, congratulations to you guys. I like the trophy. And I asked you when I came in, but have you tried taking it apart? No. Okay, I wouldn't recommend it. As a fellow engineer myself, we like to tinker with things, and even when given things that work pretty darn well, we always like to take them apart and put them back together, and usually it doesn't come out so well. You want to hear a funny story? Because I'm all about stories. This is a true story. I might have told this one before. So my father was an engineer. He was a mechanical engineer. He loves FIRST Robotics. He loves this stuff. And when he was governor, way back like 1,000 years ago, the Xerox machine broke in the back. This is an absolute true story. It was like February or March after he had been inaugurated. It was 1983. And my mother came in, and the office was in complete disarray because my father, that morning when the copy machine jammed, convinced himself, because he used to have contracts with Xerox, that he could fix it. It was literally in 1,000 pieces in the back, and he wasn't going to leave until he put the whole thing back together again. It never got back together. By noon, somebody had come in. They said, look, you have other responsibilities here, not just rebuilding the copy machine. They went and tried to fix the copier. They had to literally carry it out of the building and buy a whole new copy. So, probably not the best use of state funds at the time, and the governor permanently broke the copy machine, but we do tend to tinker as engineers, right, which is pretty cool. Okay, so we have a proclamation. You guys are here representing not just your big win, but Computer Science Education Week, which is recognized between December 5th through 11th, 2022. Whereas computer technology, an integral part of our culture, is changing how people interact with each other and the world around them. And whereas computing is transforming industry, creating new fields of commerce, driving innovation in all fields of science, and bolstering productivity in many economic sectors. And whereas fundamental skills and knowledge in computer science are especially important as many people work and attend school from home. And whereas National Computer Science Education Week helps inform students, teachers, and parents and the public about the crucial role that computer science plays in transforming society. And whereas giving students the chance to participate in high-quality computer science education will help them become informed and productive citizens in a digital age. And whereas all students can benefit from education in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, known as STEM curriculum, including the computer sciences. Now, therefore, I, Christopher T. Sununu, Governor of the State of New Hampshire, do hereby proclaim December 5th through the 11th, 2022, as Computer Science Education Week in the State of New Hampshire, and call this to the attention of all of its citizens. Thanks again. You're going to hold that, and we're going to take a few steps there. Would the counselors like to join us up here? Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, good to see you. Your parents had to pick you up and give you rides. We always like to acknowledge the parents when we ensure that it happens. Hey, how are you? Nice to see you. Congratulations. Hi. Hi, nice to see you. Great. Wait, one more parent. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. One more. Perfect. Room down. Great, great. Great. Really?
Oh, sorry.
Come back to school we're doing. I can give you a note. Hey, so please line up yourself in front. There you go. See you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Sure. Or like a selfie. Here, I got the arms here. Awesome. Okay, sure. Cool. Oh, okay. Awesome. Great. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Councilor Kenny, did you want to selfie? Okay, there you go. We'll do it at the Christmas breakfast meeting in a couple weeks. Okay, so moving forward, I'll officially call this meeting of the Governor and Executive Council to order. I'll begin by asking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our November 22nd, 2022 council meeting. There's a motion and a second. Any questions or amendments to those minutes? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of accepting the meeting minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? With that, the meeting minutes are approved. Next from the Office of the Secretary of State. we have our civil commissions. Could I begin by having a motion to approve the list of civil commissions?
So moved.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the list of civil commissions as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, no opposition, that list is approved. Are there any additional names to place on the list of civil commissions? Councilor Warmington.
Is Jacqueline Ibarra of Rochester to be a notary public?
Any additional names to be placed on the list? Okay. With that, the matter of civil commissions is concluded. We do have 2 resignations to accept today. I'll begin by asking the council to accept the resignation of Kelly Boyer of Goffstown from the Volunteer New Hampshire Board of Directors.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, Ms. Boyer's resignation is accepted. From the Fire Standards and Training Commission, could I have a motion to accept the resignation of Robert Buxton of Hudson?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Buxton's, Chief Buxton's resignation is accepted. And that concludes resignations. Moving on to our list of confirmations. Okay, so, 30 seconds here. I'll just do those, the 2 that are on the table, we'll do at the end. Is that okay? Okay. Could I begin by asking for a motion to confirm Robert Duvall of Manchester to the Air Resources Council?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Duvall is confirmed. Do I have a motion to confirm Mark Sanborn of Laconia as the Assistant Commissioner for the Department of Environmental Services?
Governor, I move the confirmation of Mark Sanborn of Laconia as Assistant Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Services.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mark is confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm Abby Savard of Hooksett to the Board of Licensed Dietitians?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abby's confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm Melissa Tuttle of Hooksett to the Board of Nursing?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Melissa is confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm William Cass of Laconia as the Commissioner for the Department of Transportation?
Governor, I move the confirmation of Bill Cass as Commissioner of the Department of Transportation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilor Kenny?
This is an exceptional nominee for and soon to be confirmed Commissioner of Transportation. Over 30 years of service in the Department of Transportation, a man who has great demeanor, empathy for employees, and knowledge of the state of New Hampshire and its infrastructure and the issues that need to be resolved. First thing was out with him last week. Constituent friendly, has a great rapport with the public in trying to solve their problems. I'm just so glad that we have someone of his caliber to take over this position.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of Bill Cass, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill Cass is now Commissioner of DOT. Just remember, U.S. Phenomenal. Could I please have a motion to confirm Jeffrey White of Concord as the Director of the Division of Field Services for the Department of Corrections?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on Jeffrey White? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Jeff White is confirmed. All right, we have a few more confirmations here, but I know the House of Representatives is ready for us for the swearing in. So with that, at the pleasure of the council, let's take a 5-minute adjournment. That's okay? Recess. Yeah, we're not adjourned, we're recessing, that's right, we like recessing. That's more fun. Great. Councilors? Okay, I will call this meeting back to order. I'll continue with our confirmation process by asking for a motion to confirm Lori Rudis as the Director of Division of Personnel for the Department of Administrative Services.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Rudis is confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm Danielle Chardonnay of Manchester as the Director of Finance for the Department of Transportation?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, Ms. Chandonnet is confirmed. Can I have a motion to confirm Alexis Martin of Hooksett as the Director of Policy and Administration for the Department of Transportation?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Alexis is confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm Jorge Santana of Concord to the Juvenile Parole Board?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, Jorge is confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm Marco Philippon of Concord to the New England Interstate Water Pollution Control Commission as part of the Department of Environmental Services?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Marco is confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm Stephanie Lesperance of Henniker to the Volunteer New Hampshire Board of Directors?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Stephanie's confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm Guy Eaton of Dover to the Volunteer New Hampshire Board of Directors?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Eaton is confirmed. Could I have a motion to confirm Philip Devanza of Goffstown to the Waste Management Council? Motion, is there a second? Second, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Philip is confirmed. Now, could I have a motion to remove from the table the confirmation of Lori Weaver of Concord?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of removing Ms. Weaver from the table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The confirmation of Ms. Weaver has been removed from the table. Could I now have a motion to confirm Lori Weaver of Concord as the Acting Commissioner for the Department of Health and Human Services?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor.
I just want to say that we had a public hearing on this matter, that the testimony was overwhelmingly in favor of Ms. Weaver. I'm happy to support her nomination. I would like to note, though, that this is the last meeting for Commissioner Shibinette, and say our farewells to her, and just wish Ms. Weaver great success.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Weaver is confirmed. I'll now ask for a motion to remove from the table the confirmation of Sean Jasper.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of removing the confirmation of Sean Jasper from the table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, the confirmation
Abstain. I have an abstention, please.
to removing it from the table?
No,
Okay.
to moving forward, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
But it's
So we're okay taking it from the table?
yes, exactly.
Okay,
We
great.
just started.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yep, so we're taking it off the table. So noting the removal of the confirmation from the table, that is approved. Now could I get a motion to confirm Sean Jasper as the Commissioner for the Department of Agriculture, Markets and Food?
So moved.
Second.
The motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilor Kenny.
Thank you, Governor. As people know, I represent a vast part of the agricultural community in New Hampshire, and his reappointment has raised a lot of concerns around my district. I had probably 12 that reached out to me personally that were against, and 5 that were for. And so I got kind of a mixed reaction with his reappointment. We had a 3-hour hearing, fairly unprecedented, but not necessarily so. When we have to review a commissioner who's going to be taking on a 5-year appointment, we need to look back and say, what have they done for the past 5 years? And so one of the things that I noticed with this commissioner is that there were some good things that he was working on, for various constituencies. I saw the Food Alliance coming to support. The New Hampshire Food Growers came in for support. And there was a split in the New Hampshire Farm Museum. There was a split in the dairy community, and there was some folks who came in from the Northeast Organic Farming Association of New Hampshire in opposition. So it's a mixed bag when it comes to his reappointment. Additionally, we saw an Agriculture Advisory Council that had, under his tenure, absolutely no activity other than a few weeks ago when they met. And that's a critical council that is really the voice of the agricultural community to bring their issues forward and to really kind of discuss what they need to in the agricultural world. Some members who reached out to me absolutely did not want me to use their name because they feared for retribution. They were concerned that the bulletin was being used for some type of platform that wasn't really what it was intended for. And the bulletin, according to what's on their website, is a publication of record to include appropriate industry notices, announcements, seasonal information, and market survey data. It is not there as a political instrument. It's not there to call out people within the agricultural community. The purpose of that bulletin, in my judgment, is to educate and to let farmers know what grants, what programs might be available to them. So my concern is not so much what Sean Jasper has done for the agricultural community, which he's done quite a bit, and there have been some aspects that he has fallen behind on, and that there would be a lot of work to catch up. Is that if this council is going to move forward with this nomination, we have to look back for the last 5 years and say, what do we expect that we're going to see in the next 5 years? And so, but beyond, the things that we need to improve upon and all the good things that the Commissioner has done, the biggest thing that concerns me is that there's a farming membership out there that fear retribution because if they're outspoken towards this Commissioner that feels that it's going to harm their farming business. I personally have not seen any Commissioner in my past, and serving 7 years on the council, that this type of kind of approach to the job and feedback from the farming community is such that I've never witnessed or seen before. And so I had a long discussion with the Commissioner yesterday. I told him his strong points and his weak points, but there's a farming community out there that's fractured. And how do we rebuild that? And it's going to take some doing, whether it's a listening tour or whatnot. But he brought up a good point. He needs help. He needs an assistant commissioner. He needs resources. And the other thing the farming community brought up is that by the year 2030, New England is going to use, hopefully, 30% of its own food production that can be sold here in New England. Our agricultural industry in New Hampshire as well as New England is critical for our future. It is what we eat every day. It's what we farm or what livestock we produce is what we eat every day. And as you look at the global population and you look at, the different, weather changes and whatnot, we have to be cognizant that we have to protect our farmers, our agricultural industry here in New Hampshire. It's called food security. And so that's concerning. But I, at this point, don't feel comfortable moving forward with this nomination, primarily because not all the work that has been done, or not all the work that's going to be done, but because of the fair treatment of a good part of our farmers who simply ask for the Agriculture Commission Department to be user-friendly, to be able to come up with the answers so they can move forward. It concerns me if they feel that there's retribution, and they're going to be in some type of farm bulletin being called out. That's just not the New Hampshire way. And I'm very strong in this. I have been from probably the last 3 weeks when I had numerous farmers reach out to me. Many of them, they don't want their names disclosed. Many of them that showed up at this public hearing. Some of them who called me via phone or emailed me. But I think I don't want that culture with any departments that people have a fear that they can't reach out and express their concerns or input to make their industry a better place. So unfortunately, I'm going to be voting no.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilwoman.
Yes, Governor, this is a very difficult nomination for me. I also have heard from a number of farmers who are concerned with the commissioner's manner, the way he responds to their questions, and his unwillingness to really take advice and listen. I balance that with quite a number of accomplishments on the part of the commissioner and quite a lot of positive feedback. In fact, I think we heard from the Farm Bureau that their membership was 3/4 to 1, and that was about equivalent to what I heard from my constituents in favor of this nomination. So this is a difficult nomination for me. I think that the commissioner is overwhelmed. He has said that he needs an assistant commissioner. He said that you favored that in your budget. I would urge that if he is confirmed today, that you stick to that, and whether it's him or some other commissioner, you put an assistant in this department. That's an important department. No farmers, no food. So, this is a really important department. The other issue is what in the healthcare world we call the poor bedside manner. And the commissioner acknowledged that. He did use the market bulletin to call out someone who disagreed with him. I've spoken to him personally that I read those market bulletins and I never want to see that again. And I would hope that you would hold him accountable for his behavior if he's confirmed in the future. That he needs to be responsive to all the farmers, and he needs to listen to all opinions, whether he agrees with them or he doesn't agree with them. And in some, and also the advisory committee that Councilor Kenny just referred to that hadn't met in 5 years, I do have a commitment from the commissioner that will meet. I will be looking for that to happen. And I would hope that you would hold him accountable as well. Having heard quite a lot of testimony and balancing all of that, and especially that 3/4 of the farmers who did contact me were in favor of the nomination, I am going to support the nomination, but it is with reservations.
Councilor Seaman.
Thank you very much. I applaud the commissioner for distributing roughly $6.8 million in federal relief funds to our farmers, and he was very prompt and efficient in responding to my questions on federal disaster relief regarding our 2 most recent droughts. On a procedural note, I'm very concerned that an LBA audit was conducted in 2017, concluded 1 month prior to his appointment, and the agency response was not available and it has not been updated. There were 16 significant deficiencies that were noted, and the commissioner has attempted to communicate what those changes would be, but I would like to see a timeline, an action plan. Secondly, the lack of strategic planning. We all know we need to think long-term, and this agency has not embraced a strategic plan. So with that, I will abstain because I don't have enough information primarily on the LBA.
Okay.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of Commissioner Jasper, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And an abstention from Councilor Stevens. With that, Commissioner Jasper is reconfirmed. That concludes our confirmation for this morning. We'll move on. I do have some nominations to read into the record. As the Assistant Commissioner for the Department of Transportation, I nominate David Rodriguez of San Jose. To the Board of Licensing for Alcohol and Other Drug Use Professionals, I nominate Joni O'Brien of East Wakefield. To the Board of Licensure of Interpreters for the Deafblind and Hard of Hearing, I nominate Nicole Sargent of Hillsborough and Grace Warwood of Manchester. To the Board of Natural Scientists, I nominate Greg Howard of West Wassaic. As the Deputy Commissioner for the Banking Department, I nominate Michael Moranti of Bedford. To the Division of Ports and Harbors Advisory Council, I nominate Chris Snow of Rye. To the Family Mediator Certification Board, I nominate Brianna Coakley of Portsmouth. To the Fire Standards and Training Commission, I nominate Donald DeAngelis of Epping. To the Public Water Access Advisory Board, I nominate Robin Saunders of Sunapee. To the as the Right to Know Ombudsman, I nominate Thomas Kerr of Concord. To the Site Evaluation Committee, I nominate James Jalbert of Rollinsford. That concludes today's nominations. So moving on to our consent calendar agenda. I'll begin by asking for a motion to adopt the consent calendar agenda. There's no motion, a second. Any discussion or request to remove any particular item for amendment or discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? With that, the consent calendar agenda is approved. So moving on to our regular agenda, I will begin by asking for a motion to adopt agenda item 6 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Long-Term Supports and Services.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? With that, the item is approved. I'll now ask for a motion to adopt agenda item 7 from the Department of Health and Human Services for New Hampshire Hospital.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 7 is approved. Could I have a motion to adopt agenda items 8 through 11 from the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Behavioral Health?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Council Warrington.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Thrilled to be here.
You're like floating in. You're so happy to be here this morning.
Be careful what you ask.
Commissioners, thank you. Thank you for your service to our state. You came on just before COVID. You endured the really hellish years. Thank you for your service to our state. And good luck with your future endeavors. I have a question about item number 8. And the question that I have in here, and I know there's some feedback on this. I've already had some feedback on this, but I'd like to just make sure that it's clear to the public as well, is that the original contract required that this program be conducted in a minimum of 10 schools. And the new contract does not expand that, but expands the amount of money. It does say, the contract doesn't require an expansion of the number of programs, but your explanation indicates that there will be 20 new schools added. That's not a contractual requirement. So I just wonder if you could talk about that disconnect between what the contract says and what your explanation says.
Katja Fox. Yes, Katja Fox, Director of Division for Behavioral Health. So we have this, we established in July, we approved a contract for the facilitating organization for the Student Assistance Program. Those are, the program consists of school districts having into this program, and they make the choice whether to run the program, and they help pay for it. We pay a portion. And typically, it is a coordinator within the schools, someone who's working on these issues and is available for students. The idea is that school districts get to decide whether to adopt this program, whether to fund it, and whether to have that infrastructure in their schools. Therefore, we can't say how many schools are going to be adopting this. We have a minimum expectation from the facilitating organization, and they will be contracting with the individual schools. And we've seen all of those school districts come here bit by bit by bit. Some are late because schools have different fiscal years and school board votes and all of that. So we anticipate, we put the floor at 10, but there really is no ceiling, and there were about 35 schools that participated in this last school year.
And you don't feel any need to contractually change the number?
Not at this time.
These programs are for students to seek assistance with substance use problems, mental health problems, is that right?
Yeah, and other family issues, other issues that they may have within the school. So it's not limited, although it's supported with the opioid funds. It's not. It's also funded through Samson grant funds and different sources. So it is like having another counselor in school.
And these minors that access this program, can they access this with confidence that the information they share will be protected, the confidentiality of that information will be protected, unless requiring disclosure by law?
So school districts have their own policies. The point of the facility organization is to help them make sure that they do have policies in place. And confidentiality usually falls toward the person who's providing the information. And therefore, if they're a licensed clinician, it's going to be different than a coordinator who is not licensed.
I have questions on items 10 and 11 as well. Item 10, this is for medication-assisted treatment to individuals suffering with an opioid use disorder. And my question here is, can minors access this program?
So I'm going to look to Dr. Ballard, who could answer this question about prescribing.
Councilor Warrington, Jonathan Ballard, Chief Medical Officer for Human Services. Treatment in general is available for individuals, adults, and children or adolescents. And the recommendation would be that services be delivered however they would be medically appropriate, medically indicated. If there is a minor, typically it would be a 16, 17-year-old who would need medication-assisted treatment, it would have to be provided by a person competent in treating minors or adolescents, whether it's a pediatrician or a specialist in substance use disorder. So it would be available, but it has to be a competent provider who knows how to treat children in an appropriate way at the same time.
The discussion between the minor and their medical provider.
Yes.
And that is actually protected, the confidentiality of that is protected by both state and federal law.
That is correct.
And does not require any parental consent.
That is correct, according to state and federal law.
And true also with programming number 11, that minors, children can access this program
Yes, that's the doorway.
and rely on doorways, and they can rely on the fact that the information they provide will be confidential.
Again, the doorways are available for all populations. We have, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of the under 18 population that are accessing those services. It's about 1%, but it's for all populations.
And so there are times when minors need to access care, where they won't share information with their parents, but we have laws to protect that so that we can make sure that minors get the care that they actually need.
Yes, stated.
Thank you.
Councilor Gadsden. So let me understand. We can treat a minor without parental notification.
Yes. state law allows for it.
Does state law allow for a school district to give a minor a aspirin without written notification?
In advance of this meeting, we did look up this law, Section 318B12, treatment of drug abuse in state law. And state law specifically defines it as clinicians, treating providers. And so I don't believe, we defer to others for the opinion whether it's not a treating provider, but a treating provider who has the confidentiality that they must maintain with their patient. The law specifically says for minors that it's permitted for medication treatment.
How does the parent help the minor get through the problem if he doesn't know about it, or she doesn't know about it?
In general, when we're treating minors as a clinician, the general approach is to try to have parents and children have open relationships, open dialogue, and talking about how they can receive help. This was specific, though, in the law that children who cannot receive treatment otherwise for medication-assisted treatment for opiate use disorder can have that confidentiality if it was so necessary. That is the law. But we always encourage, I think every clinician I know always encourages the relationship with parental involvement when it's at all possible and helpful to the situation.
So when there's a child that's addicted to substances, we don't want parental consent to be a barrier to seeking treatment. But once they're in treatment, part of the overall treatment program is to encourage that open relationship with their guardian or their parent. But because of the negative outcomes around addiction, death being the most serious, we don't want that. We don't want someone at 17 years old saying, you know, I need to get my mom or dad to come to the doorways with us. We want them engaged in treatment first, but part of the program is always to go back to the parents with the child, right? Is it 100%? No, but it's part of the management program with any clinician.
I have a real problem. We try and get a minor help, but don't tell parents that we're giving them. Because at home, where's the watchful eye? They don't know about it.
Unfortunately, sometimes the watchful eye is part of the problem.
Yes, the perspective we have is that all parents are like us, right? And sometimes these youth come to these clinics because they don't have the support of their parents, or their parents also struggle with addiction issues or mental health. So we don't want to put that barrier in place for them youth to receive treatment.
Councilor Stevens?
Dr. Ballard, in regards to medicated-assisted treatment for adolescents, the American Academy of Pediatrics has embraced and has supported use. Correct?
Councilor Stevens, that is correct.
Thank you. Question on number 11, please. The Doorways program. Within the contract, it states that MAUD, medicated-assisted treatment services under this program will not be available to clients who are new to the Doorways program that are not enrolled.
So I'm going to ask
Yeah.
Jennifer Sabin, who is the director of our state opioid use program, to be able to talk about the details of the contract.
I'm happy to repeat the question.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
1.10, the contractor must ensure any client who is receiving MOUD that services under this contract is an established doorway client prior to receiving services. That services shall not be provided to any non-doorway client. So you're shutting the door in someone's face and seeking help.
Yeah, so essentially what happens first is the doorway establishes with the client to ensure that they need access to medication. So it's really just an A, then B. You can't walk into the doorway and say, I need access to medications without first establishing that need clinically.
And you'll facilitate. I mean, no one's being turned away.
No, absolutely not.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, thank you. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of items 8 through 11, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain on 10.
The abstention and any items are approved. I'll now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 12 through 15. Department of Health and Human Services, the Division of Public Health Services.
Second?
Any discussion? Dr. Stevens?
Agenda item 13. 9 of the 13 rural hospitals are now affiliated with larger hospitals. How does that factor into this program?
Good morning, Governor. Good morning, Councilors. Good morning, Councilor Stevens. So we still work with the small hospitals, even if they have a larger affiliation. So a London hospital that's affiliated with Dartmouth is still welcome to apply.
Any other discussions on this or any other item? Okay, all in favor of items 12 through 15, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Items are approved. I'll ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 16 through 20 from the Department of Health and Human Services from the Division of Economic and Housing Stability.
So moved.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Well, that concludes our Health and Human Services item. Thank you, Stranger Commissioner. And I hope
I might be for a little while.
I love your honesty. I'm going to disappear, and there's nothing you can all do about it. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Commissioner. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all very much.
All right. And now for our new commissioner, the Department of Transportation. I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 21 through 30 from the Department of Transportation.
So moved.
Any discussion? Councilor Wheeler.
Good morning, Councilor. Good morning, Governor.
Question on 27, which is the sign.
Yes.
Is this still going the way it was in the 10-year highway plan? We're not changing exit numbers?
That's correct.
We're not putting in metric homes?
No, no metrics, no elected numbers, it's just it's a $500,000 program a year to do kind of routine maintenance and upgrade of highway signs. Reflective of the state.
Thank you.
Councilor Ward.
I just want to say congratulations for adopting your new position. Look
Thank
forward
you.
to working with you.
And I'd like to express my gratitude to all of you for your support, Governor. Thanks very much, I appreciate it.
Item 30. Again, congratulations.
Thank you.
After 2025, this document shows a significant drop, 2031, from 30 projects to 2 projects. Is that highlighting of funding from revenue streams?
You know, that's reflective of, if you recall from the 10-year plan last time, as the federal funds, as the IIJA got passed, and additional federal funds came, particularly additional federal bridge funds for off-system bridges, which are municipal bridges. We accelerated all of the projects that were spread out through the 10-year plan, and that's why in the early parts they're stacked up. There's a note there at the bottom of that chart that says this does not reflect the future projects that will be programmed as we get into the next 10-year plan. So,
It's just that due to the fact that we are accelerating
yes.
through that federal fund. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
And like that, in subsequent years, like especially the next upcoming 10-year plan, we will look to fill out those years to use the available funding.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further discussion, Councilor Getz.
Nothing in here for into 4A?
I don't believe so. Not today. Maybe next meeting, I'm sure we'll have something.
I'm sorry, Councilor Kenny, did you?
Thank you, Governor. Commissioner, congratulations again. So, Agenda 23, we're still working out those lease agreements around Holiday Day 11. So, we've got one on the agenda here today. Are we about 80-90% done through these lease agreements at this point?
We are close to 100% done. There's one or two outstanding that are working their way through. I think one or two with the Attorney General's office. And there's, I think, the table items that was one outstanding that continues to work through the appeals process, but otherwise, we've really reconciled all of the approachments along there.
That itself is...
Yeah. So it's like one or two, I think the total was like 40 or 41 of the docks and approachments, so it's a lot of progress.
So future councils will be seeing like 5 years from now, renewal of these leases?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, great. Thank you. You're welcome.
Further discussion? You can't help but notice the former commissioner is standing in the back as if he was ready to take the job if it didn't go well.
Everybody's been extremely supportive.
How are you, Chris? Good. Oh, he's looking quite dapper. Okay, if there's no further questions on these items, all in favor of items 21 through 30 from the Department of Transportation, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Items are approved. I'll now ask for motion to adopt agenda item 31 from the Housing Appeals Board. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item 31 is approved. Can I have a motion to adopt agenda item 32 from the Department of Labor?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Any discussion on 32? Okay, all in favor of item 32, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item 32 is approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda items 33 through 38 from the Department of Energy?
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Kenny? I think the Commissioner's here. Yeah.
Governor, Councilors, Jared Triswayne, Department of Energy.
Morning, Commissioner. How are you doing today? Are you keeping everybody warm? It's been a mild winter so far so good. So I'm finding myself reaching out to community action programs quite a bit these days. And so when we pass a contract, say today, the East Coast contract, that will provide fuel assistance and for the most part here today, how quickly do they get the money to be able to deliver the services? Because we'll be talking about a housing, emergency rental housing program in an upcoming agenda here. And so there's always, with emergency rental assistance, there seems to be a gap. So is there any gap when it comes to us improving the amount of these contracts that go out for community actions? Is there any, how does it work?
So typically there's never going to be a gap, for instance, when you fall, because we'll bring contracts to you in September, October, with carryover from the previous program year. So we advance that to the CAPS, so they have that funding. And then the federal government provides us with the next program year funding late in October, early November, which is what we're doing today, or I hope you approve today. That funding, it's essentially we advance them admin. I'm looking at Josh because he's correcting where I'm wrong. But the funding is available now. Once you approve it, it's authorized. They can start drawing on those funds.
So when you communicate to community action programs on upcoming contracts, I mean, I could do it eventually with a newsletter or push out to the district, but do you give them a heads up that this is a contract on the agenda that's going to help fund your program?
Typically we do that, and they know it's this time of year where we get the federal reward. Our program manager lets them know, and
Yeah. I asked that because I had constituents come to all the time who would say, well, the waiting on funding, or, there's a gap. Not necessarily with your program, but other kind of programs. So that's why I asked the question.
in the 5 years I've been involved with the program, we've never had a gap. The funding is there. It's available.
Just checking in.
No, absolutely. That's a good question.
Councilor Gatz.
Thank you, Governor. Just a general question, increases for electric rate. Where are we at with that?
So Eversource and Liberty Utilities were out with their RFP for the next 6 months of the fall service, which would take effect February 1st. We expect to see a filing from Eversource probably by the end of this week with the results of their auction, and then from Liberty next week.
Are they looking for increases?
Well, we won't know, so it's an auction, they issue an RFP, they receive bids from suppliers, and then the utility chooses, most often, the lowest cost, and then what they do with that is they go to the commission for approval, not necessarily of the rate per se, but of the process. Do they follow the process that they're supposed to follow to procure that power for the customers?
And then they will be coming here.
No, the approval doesn't go to the council, it just goes to the commission.
Well, I would think that with the reduction of the price of oil, that maybe they're going to withdraw the idea of increasing rates.
So what drives the high cost of electricity right now is the global natural gas market, and those prices are through the roof. So, much of our generation in New England, electric generation, is produced burning natural gas. So the natural gas market drives those prices. So those suppliers who bid into the RFP that the utilities produce, those prices, those bids that come in are affected by the global natural gas market. So
I noticed today the price of natural gas is down quite a bit, way under $5.50.
So the futures look good. They look better, I should say. They look better. But in New England, we're in this unique situation where we have limited pipeline capacity coming into the region. And we're very dependent on liquefied natural gas, which comes in on cargo vessels and injects into the system. So it's, even if natural gas prices go down, we could still see higher costs than the rest of the country based on some of those constraints that we have in the region.
So we never have a chance of ever seeing prices go down.
I think we do. I think we do. There are, the war in Ukraine, if there's resolution there.
That's that war in Ukraine, yeah.
It's not the only reason, but it's a major reason. And if things cool down in Europe, that could absolutely improve prices.
If I may, Europe has been working hard through their mild early winter to maximize their storage of natural gas, knowing that A, a tough winter could come, and B, the pipeline really gets even more constrained out of Russia as time goes on and the war gets delayed. As those have been filled up, you have some capacity. It is actually, I don't know if it is today, but at least a few weeks ago, it was cheaper to bring in natural gas from Europe than it was from the United States. That's how, if I may, screwed up our policies on fossil fuels are in this country right now. So it's not just on policy, but that's a big constraint of it. But the mild winter in Europe has actually helped us a little bit. Whether it bears out, to your point exactly, in that futures market of February to August, is that right?
Yes.
Oh,
the 6 months.
The 6 months,
service, yes.
Which is what the RFP is out for. Hopefully we see that reduced, but we just won't know until it goes to auction.
A waiver on the GENS Act. What we need, correct?
It would help. It would help. It would help in an emergency situation where there was extreme weather events and there were serious constraints in getting natural gas through the current pipeline system. And if we needed additional LNG, which comes in on a cargo ship, absolutely would help to have a Jones Act waiver so that a non-U.S. flagged vessel could move product from a U.S. port to another U.S. port. We're working with the federal government on that. The governor has sent a letter. We've met with U.S. Department of Energy several times. We have a call scheduled with the Department of Homeland Security, which controls much of the process. So we're doing our best to work with the federal government on what the options would be if we were in an emergency like that.
We could be in rolling blackouts, but we could not access fuel from, let's say, Louisiana or Texas with the existing Jones Act. We'd be better off getting fuel from Europe. And I'm not blaming you, but that is a disgrace. Because my constituents, I'm hearing from them, they're putting $20 increments of kerosene to keep their heat rolling. They're without fuel. And if it were not for my community action program, these seniors, people are going to die. And I'm horrified that we cannot get a waiver. And again, it's not a reflection on you, but it is a disgrace.
Councilor Kane?
To follow up with Councilor Gatz's on the PUC potentially raising the electric rates. Obviously, it's a cold time of year. Is there any opportunity, if they do raise the rates, to delay that until late spring?
That would be very difficult. If you were to options like that, those costs would still just be, ratepayers will pay those costs, whether they pay them now or later. There's really no way of getting around those costs. If there was some scheme where you could delay it, it just means everyone's paying it down the road. And not knowing the future prices and where the market's going to be, it could mean even much higher rates next winter, because ratepayers have to pay that. Those costs are all recovered by the utilities.
Well, there is a saying with someone on fixed income, they're worried about this winter, they're not necessarily worried about next winter.
Absolutely. They have to, Eversource has to meet their load requirements. So, they have to procure that energy, and, the commission, they have to approve that in order for customers to have the energy.
They're just buying the natural gas from another private producer. They're going to take the lowest cost, 99 times out of 100.
Right.
They're going to take that lowest cost, and then it just translates into the price, unfortunately.
We're at the mercy of the markets.
Yeah. And next winter could be worse. I'm actually very concerned about 1 and 2, 3 years down the road. Yeah. Our infrastructure and reliability within New England is only getting worse. So that's one of the problems that we're facing long term. Doing everything we can to deal with that. Okay. Further discussion on this issue? Thank you. Great job. All in favor of items 33 through 38, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The items are approved. All right, so who is it? Okay, great. Well, I apologize, everyone. We're going to take just a quick 5-minute break. We have 1 or 2 other additional reps to swear in to make sure that Sorry?
You can stay right here.
Oh, yeah. We don't have to go anywhere. But if everyone will understand, let's just take a 5-minute recess and ask Representative-elect Travis O'Hara. Come on up. I knew I saved it for a reason. How are you? Nice to see you. Nice to see you. The bus was late, right? Yes. Okay, great. All right, come on in. All right. Right there. You sit on that side. You get the special treatment in front of the tree. Okay. Please raise your hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do you solemnly swear that I will bear faith and true allegiance to the United States of America and the state of New Hampshire, and will support the Constitution thereof? So help me God. I state your name. Do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon me as state representative according to the best of my abilities, agreeably to the rules and regulations of this Constitution and the laws of the state of New Hampshire. So help me God. Congratulations. Now get to work. Okay, thank you guys. Was that the only one? That's for now. If anyone else comes in, that's no problem. Whoever wants to come in, just go in. It's your stuff. Okay, will that go to Belmont or go to District 2?
Belmont's in District 2.
Oh, it's in 2. Oh, and you take it over. Okay, so we'll reconvene the meeting, and I'll do so by asking for a motion to adopt agenda items 38A and 39 from the Department of Business and Economic Affairs. Motion is second. Thank you. Any question on either of these items? Let's start with Councilor Kennedy, and then we'll go right around. Commissioner Fisher.
Gave us a quick little overview of the breakfast meeting, but we want you to repeat that performance. And secondly, when you repeat that performance, can you tell us overall how much money is going to go into New Hampshire when it comes to broadband in the next 2 to 3 years?
Sure. So, as we discussed, the item in front of you today is for 2 things. It's for round 2 of the Broadband Connect program, which is a program that we initiated earlier this year, and the round 1 that was the New Hampshire Electric Company. They're underway establishing fiber connections at broadband speeds to 23,000 new locations in New Hampshire. The second round, upon approval here, would fund a $40 million second round that we expect to have very similar outcomes in other areas, primarily rural areas of the state. So together, those 2 programs would represent somewhere north of 35,000 or more new locations being served at high-speed fiber speeds at a cost, at least for the first round. We don't have the second round numbers yet, but our first round per location cost is just over $2,000 per location, which when we look at the other states that are initiating this program right now, we are the lowest state that does not have a match, but just behind Louisiana, which does require a match. So that's the first part. That's the $40 million component. There is a second $25 million request for acceptance spend to initiate round 1 of the Broadband Municipal Grant Initiative, BMGI. That is a program that was established by the legislature. We had last session to work with members of the legislature to make some adjustments to that statute so that we could use the federal funds that we're using here to fund that program. So the $25 million that we're asking for here today would initiate round 1 of that program. That, in combination with the other things that you've approved, including the mapping and our administrative costs, pretty much speaks to the initial $122 million that the state received under the Capital Projects Fund, which was under ARPA. So what we are going to be moving towards next is an amount that is at least that amount that would be provided under the infrastructure legislation that was enacted in November of 2021. So once that fund continues to come, we would expect to see at least, I say at least, $100 million additional funding for more broadband build-out of our infrastructure. So that's kind of where we stand. We're kind of estimating, we don't have any firm guidance from the federal government when that money is going to show up. But right now we're saying they're saying it'll be in the second quarter of 2023.
So the BMGI program, as we're calling it, 25% above that 25 million was leveraged by the municipalities, and what would that add on as well?
So that program is set up so that it would be a 75-25 split. So the state would pay 75% of the cost of the project that would come to be funded in a partnership between the internet provider and the municipality. So in almost all of those instances, we would expect that the cost, that 25%, would be borne, at least initially, by the internet provider.
So
12, 13 million more.
12, 13 million.
Yes.
Because that's important as we leverage those dollars so you can get, in essence, more content.
Yes.
And my last question is, we're looking at locations. How many locations do we have in New Hampshire today? And how many locations are we going to add on to all this millions of dollars that we're adding?
Well, I can tell you that just based on the contractual obligations of the providers that will be doing round 1 and round 2 of the Broadband Connect program, as I mentioned, we expect that number, we know it's at least 23,000 because that's under the current contract. We expect to add 15 or so thousand more under the $40 million program, which gets us to 35,000. How much and what percentage that is of the existing locations, I can't tell you that right now.
So I guess my point is we're obviously making an impact in the rural areas, which I very much champion. But I just was kind of curious overall, what percentage of the overall locations are we making an impact?
I'm going to guess it's really high. We'll have a better understanding of that probably once we have our mapping completed in the first quarter of 2023. We'll be able to say with a little bit more definitive, but it's going to be a very high percentage.
So North Country people are very skeptical, rightly so when it comes to cell phone coverage and broadband, high-speed broadband. How are you going to come back and audit the work that's been done through this money that's been given out and say, aha, they have fulfilled their contract and it actually is high-speed internet?
That's definitely part of the work that our department will be engaged in, is in confirming that the speeds that are required under the contract are met. And those, just to reiterate, that's a 100 Mbps download and a 20 with scalable to 100 up. So and is to have nothing better than dial-up. This is going to be a whole different world. And this is going to be using a fiber technology as opposed to earlier technologies that have some limitations. So we'll be able to scale that even higher.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Do you have the question I asked earlier, the 30% subsidy for low-income people?
Yes, sir.
Who's paying for that?
That is not paid for under this program. I did confirm that through different federal programs with those funds.
I read it in these items. It's not really in these items?
It's mentioned because it's a requirement of anyone who takes advantage of these programs to offer that to people that are eligible. But the funding for that does not come from the item.
Where does it? Where is it going?
FCC.
What's that?
The FCC.
The FCC will do a direct grant program to these providers to ensure that there's a percentage.
Right, but it's an existing program, so they will have to participate in the program if they accept these funds.
Okay.
If I could, I think Council really bring up an incredibly important concern. One thing we saw over COVID and since COVID is you see these prices. The monthly fees skyrocketing for families all over the place. So that's why I think this program is really great, especially for low income. But one of the concerns is that, yes, with access also comes a monthly fee base, and we have to make sure that providers are not taking advantage of that and gouging their customers. Which is important. Sorry, Councilwoman.
In the Broadband Connect program, are you going to select one individual provider, or could this be divided up among multiple internet service providers?
We will select one.
And can you give any assurance that the last program did not cover Cheshire County, that this internet service provider that you select will cover those areas of the state that haven't been addressed at all?
What I can do is it's an open process, so I can't make any firm assurances, but I can tell you that our goal with round 2 is to be substantially present in areas that were not covered in our plan.
Councilor Jackson?
Thank you, Governor. So let me be clear. This is a yes or no answer.
I'll fill the blanks.
You're going to fill in the blank?
$200.
The provider that's currently in place will have to come up with 25% of those dollars to continue servicing the area. Huh?
I'm working on it.
Yes or no? You don't have to work hard.
Okay, so no, but because, and the reason is because their continued services that they would be providing in a territory would not be contingent exclusively on participation in the program. So they continue to provide the services.
Right, but the 40 million that's being injected, don't they have to come up with 25%?
Oh, yes, under the Broadband Connect.
So the answer to the question is
Yes.
yes.
25%.
Thank you. Any,
No, he didn't. He just had to wait for the get there. I knew there was the yes there somewhere. I had to wait for it. Filled it in. Yeah. Councilor Stevens?
So we were just about $2,100 per home. Massachusetts was about $9,000 per home. So my question is, as we discuss access to fiber optic cable, labor, so the sooner we get moving on this, the greater the probability of staying in that price range, correct?
That's an important point, Councilor. That's one of the reasons why we're moving so quickly here in New Hampshire as opposed to a lot of other states, is because a lot of the respondents to these programs, whether it's a company like Comcast or a company like New Hampshire Electric Cooperative or Consolidated, they have services in other states. And if we're in a competition for those other states for the workforce or really even for the supplies, that's going to necessarily increase the cost that we're doing, so we're trying to do it quickly to stay ahead.
That's great, thank you.
Can I make one other point? Of course. The fact that our costs are literally a third lower, which means that for dollar, we're going to hook up 3 times, is not like 20% more or 100%, like 300% more people are going to get access to broadband in New Hampshire than in a place like Massachusetts. I don't think people are, that's a big part of the council, because it has to go through this very open and public process. There's a lot of public scrutiny on it, there's a lot of public discussion on it. That's the fundamental difference and benefit of our system over a state like Massachusetts. God help them as they waste their dollars. We are the model. I mean, they really are. We are the model, and I have no doubt other states are going to now use us and say, whoa, 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 why did New Hampshire get such a great deal? Well, because we have a great check and balance system. And that's a big, I think, testament not just to your department, but to the council and the process that we have here. It's pretty great.
We were the first out of the gate in the nation to pursue this program. So I tip my hat. And Taylor, I tip my hat because, again, 2,100 versus 9,000. That's huge.
We've got a good team.
Yeah, great.
they're big enough staff to keep an eye on?
Yes, sir.
You're sure?
Yes.
They're going to be out there putting lines in the ground
That's a
themselves.
big yes.
Okay. Further discussion on any of these items? Okay. All in favor of items 38A to 39, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The items are approved. I'll now ask for motion to adopt agenda item 39A to 39D from the Governor's Office of Emergency Relief and Recovery.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilwoman?
29A. So this is, we approved the money the last time, this is the contract for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And I see in the contract that it has a $200 sort of aspirational goal. I guess the average price of a hotel room would be $200. I'm still hearing from my municipalities that the caps are paying $300 for places that normally charge $100 to $150. So I just wonder if you could just talk about that. I mean, obviously, the less we pay for a hotel room, the longer that we can stretch the stall. So can you just talk about why you landed on 200 and why that's an average and how that's going to make sure that our dollars are spent wisely?
Yes, so, I mean, what we're trying to do is get a number that we feel has a degree of fairness for all parties that are involved, but we're also trying to have a number that has some ability to flex in one way or another, because there are areas in the state, as we've discussed, that where a $200 per night might be a less advantageous to a hotel owner that is looking to maybe have tourists in for a weekend or something. So in order to accommodate that and not have a situation where we have households coming and going out of a unit, let's say in a given hotel, what we've done is we're going to work with the caps in New Hampshire housing to keep the overall state number at 200 or below over the course of this project. So we had to build in some flexibility to be able to accommodate those instances. But we also wanted to recognize that we didn't want to be paying a lot of these exorbitant rates.
And how did you come to 200?
This is Chase.
Chase Hageman, Deputy Director. It was slightly lower than what had been the average in the program, so it was a way to help with downward pressure overall, and also realize the Commissioner said that there may need to be some flexibility.
The other issue that we had talked about last time is that municipalities are doing their budgets. As these people, as this program ends next spring, these folks that are being housed in hotels then become the responsibility of the municipalities. And the municipalities are just trying to budget how much they're going to be responsible for, and they've been unable to get information from the CAPS about how many families are in hotels and what the city of origin is for those families, so that they know who's going to be responsible for it, so that they can actually include money in their own budgets. And we talked about that, and I think we've come up with a proposal. Can you just talk about
Yeah, so what we would do is under the program administration, we would establish a system where New Hampshire Housing would generate a monthly report that included the number of households that are in a hotel in a given municipality. The municipality can request those as they need them. It would include within it the number of households that are in hotels in their municipality, the number of that group that are residents of their community, the number that are not residents of their community, and also the number of residents that may be in another community that are residents of their community. So we think that achieves what we had discussed about making sure that there was a way for them to understand, sort of what the impacts are or could be if we're not able to find housing, which ultimately is the goal of this program, of course, and gives them that opportunity.
Any municipality can then request that.
Yes.
And when will that become available?
Once we start the program, so probably first report would be sometime in February.
Thank you. And thanks for being with
Sorry, a couple things. I just want to make a brief comment. There being a former municipal official, there's two line items you can override, and that's usually public assistance and emergency management budget. No other line items can be override as far as municipal budgets. I just bring that up because who knows what the future is of this program and where people are going to end up. There has been some discussion from constituents who are at motels and hotels that there's been a gap. In other words, funding has run out. In the way for this program, the past, if you will, and they had to go back to the hotel owners who said help is on its way. Much like I asked a question earlier to Commissioner Ciccone about fuel systems, how instantaneous is this once we pass this contract today? When does it get to the agencies immediately?
I'm going to ask Chase to answer that. He's involved in the administration.
Certainly. Good question, Councilor. As soon as the contract itself is approved here, within, I'd say, a week or so, that money will be going to New Hampshire Housing and the CAPS. The sub-award is designed to be retroactive to December 1st to help meet some of those gaps that you identified. So it should be going out the door pretty quickly. There's also the existing ERA program and funding in that is also continuing to help meet that gap while this funding is on its way.
So it's responsibility of the individual, the older hotel owner, and hotel owners say, listen, help is on the way, or is that the community action programs responsibility.
The CAPS have been working with hotel owners where there's anticipated that households would be rolling off because of a lack of continued assistance, and where the hotel owners are in agreement, they have basically been willing to wait on basically moving a household out, understanding that this funding is on its way.
Okay. Hopefully I don't get too many calls.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Once again,
Is there a reason why we wouldn't make these funds available to apartment owners? Because at $200 a day, that comes out to $6,000 a month.
Yes.
I think you probably can find an awful lot of apartments for less than $6,000 a month.
Understood, but I think also, what we're dealing with is, as you well know, a vacancy rate that is extremely low, and we're already working under the ERA program outside of the hotel component that we're talking about here to place people and keep people in those types of environments, which are admittedly, in most cases, less cost. But we are at a point where the vacancy rate and the availability for apartments for people in this situation, and in some cases, the individuals that we're dealing with in the hotel arrangement are the most difficult to house for various reasons. We are in a situation where in a lot of communities, the only available housing that we have and units would be rentals at this time.
But is there a reason why we wouldn't say to somebody, if they have vacancies in their apartments, come forward and instead of $6,000 a month, we'll give you $4,000, which is more than probably 95% of the apartments that are available in the state.
I think, given the fact that we've got a lot of people in housing situations, and again, we're talking about a lot of communities in rural areas that are utilizing these hotel arrangements, where there's quite literally nowhere else for them to go in those communities. So I understand the point that you're making, but I think given where we are right now with the housing situation in New Hampshire, this is our best option to get people through the winter.
and if I may, in those situations, those landlords and potential tenants are already taking advantage of the rental assistance, or have been. So these are folks that didn't have the others, if you will, that didn't have any.
In the city of Manchester, if you go down Pine Street, you will find a tent city that's right there in front of it. I'm not too sure those people are going to be looking for a hotel room.
There are a number of hotels that we're using in Manchester. I can't speak to fully right now.
Well, I will tell you, if you take a look,
Yeah.
there's more tents than you can shake a stick at right there on the sidewalk.
This brings up another thought. So if you're in a hotel, it's funding will cover you through the spring. It's a family, it's through the gym. However, if you're someone who's just been thrown out on the street, do they have the opportunity to use this money as a new client to go to a hotel?
So the universe that we're dealing with for this program are the people who are in the system right now. So they have applied prior to the pause of the program in October 21st. So that's a known universe that we're addressing in this program.
Okay.
Further discussion? Okay, all in favor of items 39A through 39D, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Can I get a motion to adopt agenda items 40 through 58 from the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources? Any discussion? Councilor Wheeler.
My pet peeve, item 45, are any of these vehicles going to be allowed for personal use as additional vehicles and what percentage?
Thank you. Item 45 has to do with the 3 vehicles that we will be leasing from Littleton Chevrolet to enhance our fleet, so we don't have to buy those vehicles. It's a partnership that's for 12 years, and we have a good exchange. In terms of personal use, Counselor, I'm not sure without confirming with JD if those 3 vehicles that stay on property or if they're also used to travel.
parts. Drivers for that particular item is Middleton Chevy.
Yeah.
And those are used around the state and on property.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Just so I'm clear, so the company that's providing the vehicles, their motivation is purely advertising and marketing of their company?
Well, yeah, we also provide them with, I believe, $10,000 worth of tickets to the mountain. So they can promote our ski experience at Littleton Chevrolet. But for $10,000, we get to use the 3 vehicles that we would otherwise have to pay for in a different way.
It's a great local partnership. It's probably and it is our most local partnership. Any other skier that's got an agreement with a particular type of vehicle, whether it's Chevy, Buick, Volvo, whatnot, would be with that particular company. This is Littleton Chevrolet rather than just being Chevrolet. It's great co-branding in the North Country and regionally as well.
Traveling around in Volvo, just telling me what
Yeah, the industry average for us on redemption for that stuff is less than 25% on the trade down.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Further discussion on any of these items? Okay, all in favor of items 40 through 58, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those ones are confirmed. Thank you. Moving on, I'll ask for motion to adopt agenda items 59 through 69 to the Department of Environmental Services.
So moved.
Any discussion? We do have a question from Councilor Warrington. Is folks here from DES? Deputy Mayor? Some questions?
Morning, Mark Sanborn.
Good morning. So this is on item 67, where reached out to the commissioner about it, and an email back that still have questions. The award in the attachment, the original award was for $50,000, but this grant is actually for $70,000. And so, can you just talk about where that additional funding came from, and will we be expecting to see this in the other projects as well as a result of increased costs?
Sure. Our staff, so the original request was for $50,000. Our staff reached out when discussing the grant and realized for $20,000 more, there would be more improvements that could be made. And that from a best leveraging the dollars, instead of having to do a whole new grant for that, adding $20,000, still under the minimum for still below the maximum allowable for this program, we thought the best course of action going forward was to award them the $70,000. They could do the additional work, best leverage the dollars, and have the best result in terms of the work they were trying to perform.
Did that $20,000 come from some other project?
No, we did not come from another project. We still have availability under those funds for this additional 20. And our goal for all these funds is to use every dollar. So as grants come back, or if there's a contract falls through, we try to find other opportunities to use those grants. And this was an opportunity to enhance this project and produce a better project.
So this is really just unique to this particular facts and circumstances of this particular project, not a sort of increase in cost overall that we should expect to...
No, it's not an increase overall, but I will say we do look for opportunities to work with the community if their request is under the maximum they're allowed in the program. But in speaking with them, there's additional work that could be done, and we have the funding that wouldn't come from another project. We do look for those opportunities because in the long run, it saves us time not having to come back to that community and work with them.
Councilor Steve.
My question is, this is a private gated community, correct?
It is.
But we're turning away municipalities, such as Beaver.
Yeah. So we are very cognizant of the concern of these funds going to entities that are more private gated communities, and the perception that could get. That being said, they are eligible, and we can't turn them away just because they're, from a perception standpoint, they're not what we really love funding. And I will say that if a town is not getting their funding, it usually means there's some more work we need to do with them, not there isn't funding available. So, but I'm happy to look into Seabrook, where the status of that is, and we'll certainly get back to you on that.
But this, the New York Times has identified this facility, this property, as only expensive. So that's where my concern is. $500,000 homes and above, so that's...
We definitely appreciate that, and like I said, these aren't our first choices. They are eligible, though, so we can't turn them away just because there's a perception problem.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Theoretically, if that wanted, I guess you could address it in the legislature, correct? Or is it federal?
The federal eligibility.
And we don't control any of the rules around federal.
No, and I mean, the program, I mean, do remember, the program does want to get clean drinking water to all of us, and that's at the heart of the program. Now, I will say this, the communities are the ones, and especially the ones of lower income, are definitely where our staff puts in a lot more energy, working with them, if there are shortcomings in their applications, trying to make sure we can get them to the point where they'll be successful. So we put our staff time into working with the areas of most need.
Well, and I understand, I mean, this abuts, is it Pleasant Lake, and they've had cyanobacteria outbreaks, so to your point, I understand.
Yep, and I'll look into where we're at in Seabrook, and we can get back to you and see what we can do for that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilor Kenny?
Thank you, Governor. On Agenda 68, we talked about this the other day, but this is kind of a close work with the alternative power supply project. And this is going after $410,000, along with a loan agreement of $428,000. Right now, Colebrook has been on an administrative order, to upgrade its water system, which it has over the last few years. They ran around with a couple of the water wells that were placed into another source location, which ended up in litigation. So I guess my question is, are they still under administrative order? And what opinion, so they came back on the previous loan of rural development?
So, Randy, are they still under administrative order? Yeah, so they are still under administrative order. I've been able to get half your question. The old USDA grant that they have is rural development, but our staff is working with the USDA rural development state staff to get the answer on what their current obligation is, and we'll be able to get you that from that previous work that was done.
So basically what they have is two wells that were around the project, and so they have to pay back, even though they have some legal settlement above and beyond. They still have making these payments back to the federal government, and now they have a new project with two wells.
And just for the rest of council to clear, they're not paying back to us. It's not a federal program we administer. It's one of the programs administered through USDA Rural Development. So, but we work with them all the time, and I'm going to get you an answer on what their obligations are to USDA.
Small town, and something went bad, so I just hope we do the best we can.
Yeah, and as you know, I used to work in USDA Rural Development, so I'll call up and see what options are.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Further discussion on any of these items from DES? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of items 59 to 69, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved. There was a tabled item from environmental services that has now been removed from the agenda. So it's been withdrawn by the Department of Environmental. So that concludes items from DES. I'll now ask for a motion to adopt agenda items 70 to 74 from the Department of Education.
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda items 75 through 86B from the Department of Safety?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda items 87 through 90 from the Department of Justice?
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those items are approved. Could I get a motion to adopt agenda items 91 through 96A from the Department of Administrative Services?
Second.
Any discussion? Council Warmington.
Regarding the sale of the property, I would say that in the media report that the firm of counsel is involved in a lawsuit involving that developer. I have evaluated the situation and determined that I can make that disclosure, but do not feel confident to represent any conflict in this discussion. I'm just concerned that the city of Laconia sent a letter yesterday asking about the bidding process and just sort of wanting to play out what would happen if this investor purchased the property and then failed to actually develop it. How would that play out?
I'm going to have Jared Nyland join me. Jared is our real property manager. Can you stand up for me? So you can hide behind me if you want. Jared's our real property manager, is our real estate attorney, and has been instrumental in this process. So there are two things that we're doing. I want to sort of cast this to the council on what we're doing, right? One is a direct and one is an indirect thing. We're selling the property. At its most basic level, what we're doing is selling the property. And because we're the state, this is not like the sale of the Ashland liquor store. Where we put it up for sale, somebody buys it. It's a big piece of property. It's a significant part of the community. Because of that, even though technically, directly, all we're doing is selling the property, we have been, from the very first part of this, very directly involved in the commission that's been ongoing for about 5 years, 6 years now. In addition to that, we've been working very closely with the city of Laconia. So part of what we're trying to do is to select a developer to whom we sell it. State will no longer have any role whatsoever in the development as part of the legislative mandate of the sale, but that will do a good job, and that we're convinced can do a good job. We're convinced of that. Technically speaking, the technical answer to your question is, once we sell the property, it really is in their hands. Because of that, what we're trying to do is to sell it as best we can to people that we feel confident in. Because of that, it's not me and Jared deciding, yeah, I don't know, they seem okay, right? Yeah. We've had various steps of the process. The Lakes Region, Lake Shore Redevelopment Commission, I don't know why I can't get their name right, has been very involved, has met multiple times with everybody pretty much who considered making a proposal, probably multiple times. Most of the people who ended up making a proposal met with them somewhere between 4 and 8 times. The city of Laconia, who will be the ultimate, currently the state is not subject to zoning regulations, et cetera, with the state. Once we sell it, we're not the state. I mean, we're still the state, but the property is not the state anymore, so the city's in charge. So the city has to be comfortable. That's why people are meeting with the city a lot. And so we have them involved from the beginning of the process. We had a technical review committee to look at the 4 proposals that came in when we did a call for offers. They're not proposals, really, they're offers. And that technical review committee included representatives of the Lakeshore Development Commission. It included Rusty McClear, who's a local developer who's working. Meredith, people are very familiar with, very community-oriented, that's why he's there. It included the city planner for the city of Laconia. We actually asked the the city to designate someone, they designated him on that committee. And then various technical experts with the state engineers, et cetera. Jared, technically I was there. Councilor Kenny was there as a representative of the council. That committee met and looked at things. I will say this, that they considered whether people we were selling it to had the wherewithal to do the development. And that's something which I'm not expert in, but on the committee work. They considered whether it was a good process, whether it was a good project, whether their vision was good for the property, and whether their relationship with the city would be strong. In the end, I don't want to say we did whatever Laconia wanted. It happens to be that the city of Laconia wanted this particular proposal, and it happened to be that everybody on the committee agreed with them, and that everybody was aware of that. The committee wanted to show deference to the city of Laconia. We didn't want to give them a veto, we didn't want to say, well, you make the pick and we'll decide whether it's okay or not. But we did have that discussion about what you guys did, so we picked that up.
But to be clear, the city of Laconia has been involved in the choice of this developer all the way through.
Oh, yeah, no question. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, and by the way, the fact that the city was supportive of the developer, was happy with the developer and preferred the proposal, I think it's important. I don't think it's us advocating, and I think it's us bending over backwards to be supportive of the city and to have a partnership.
Specifically in the letter that was sent to the council yesterday, did you see it?
I saw it, unfortunately, I haven't had a lot of time to look at it because they sent it, I believe it was shared with the governor's office at like 7 o'clock this morning. And so I did see it slightly before the breakfast.
So they raised some concerns about concurrent uses of the property, the city's use of the memorial field, the parking, the building that they're using as a homeless shelter right now. Are those addressed in this version of the plan?
They're not addressed in the purchase and sales agreement, and I think what the city would want, if I read the letter right, and I'm going to be cautious about that without having had time to look at it, and 7 o'clock this morning isn't early. So there are a couple things. Parking on the North Field. Parking on the North Field is something that the developer has discussed with and is fully committed to, has discussed with the city, and it's something that we would absolutely do. I don't think in perpetuity in the deed is something we would consider. It's not the kind of thing where because it would affect the ownership value, and we would have to negotiate that. So in perpetuity in the deed, no. But a relationship, they've actually talked to the city about that. The water rights and the usage of the current water there, absolutely. But we're not going to demand that the developer commit to never moving the water tower or anything like that. Those are two things. But where the homeless shelter is the third thing. It's a cold weather shelter. It will be done by April. We won't close by April. Everyone's aware of that, and there's no reason for it to be affected at all. Go ahead, Senator Fox.
Is there any concern about tabling this and taking this up into?
If you were to ask me what I would prefer it not be tabled and for us to vote today. I do understand, I don't want to tell you not to do that at all, and that, oh my God, the world will end. What I want, this is, as you know, this process is a lot more open than sales typically are in the state. And what I don't want to do is have the price ultimately affected. So if the council felt it needed more information and wanted more time, of course, that's nothing I would object to. But my preference would be to try to get this to vote today. If we thought we could. For a couple of reasons. One is that, interest rates being interest rates, we want everybody to start working on financing and everything else, and we want to start moving the process forward. I'm not saying.
Mr. Nyland, thank you so much for following up to my question on those 2 negative comments. 2, that was it, correct, in the public hearing?
That's all I received during the comment period.
Right. That was it? Yes. 2 negative comments. Okay.
We had a very good, it was actually a terrific public hearing, and I have to applaud the city for their role in that in the city council chamber, which is nice. I got to sit in a council seat. I know some council was there, chair right next to the mayor. But the city planner actually did the lion's share of the meeting, and I think it was very useful for us to have the city that involved.
That's it. And these were rather vague concerns, outside input, outside of Laconia. and perhaps the scale of the residents.
I think the people at the meeting itself, they had a lot to say, and a lot of people obviously watched online too, but they had a lot to say at the meeting, and I think that, both we and most particularly the planner was able to answer, any concern, and the notion that the city is in so much control going forward, I think is some enormous solace to the citizenry.
Thank you.
And, sorry. No, I was just going to ask about, again, no disclosing too much information. It was my understanding that this was far and away the best proposal to see you do.
So two things. It is financially the best proposal, and people are aware of that. In the technical review discussion, we actually had a discussion where I said, all right, let's take the money off the table. I said, pretend that everything is exactly an equal price. What's your preference on proposal? And this was far and away the preferred proposal as well. And so none of this decision is being made. I mean, money is important, and I understand the legislative mandate that I have. I don't want to minimize that. But this is the best proposal, absent dollars.
And I would just add, I didn't receive the letter this morning, and so I called the mayor directly this morning before this meeting, and just to confirm that the city planner was there, had all the opportunity to ask questions or whatever, was fully on board, and not just on board, but really, if I may, drove a lot of the process, as they should. The city of Lakota, they're part of it. Yeah, and so they've been a part of this in terms of what we're choosing, understanding who the developer is, all the background information, being able to have the discussions on these issues. So, I mean, the mayor's not, he's traveling, I guess he's out of the country, but the city of Laconia drove this. I was very surprised by the letter because they had a lot of time to bring up some of these issues, but they have been addressed, which is the good news. I think they've been discussed and addressed, which gave me a lot of confidence in terms of being able to move forward and not losing time, because obviously the more time we lose, everything becomes more variable in the real estate transaction.
Well, can I just ask you, Governor, if you've had personal conversations with the mayor this morning, is he in favor of the council supporting this today? Or does he have further questions?
Well, I don't know. My big question is, why are we getting this this morning when his senior team has been involved for weeks and weeks and weeks? He didn't have an answer to that, which was, that in itself was kind of disappointing because, so I can't explain what discussions or why his team is driving this and has agreed to the whole thing, and we're getting a letter this morning. There wasn't a whole lot of answer there. He's not here. He's out of the country, so it was a pretty brief conversation. But I do know these issues that he brought up in terms of the parking in the field and the water, that those have been discussed. But again, as Charlie said, to put things into perpetuity into a deed, appreciate that, there seems to be a commitment there to make sure that the access to that happens, but to put something into perpetuity in a deed is fraught with a lot of problems.
Well, and I would say that not only is there a commitment, and these are not things that are surprising anybody, and I actually confirmed with the principal this morning. She said, yeah, of course, we've even talked about this.
Yeah.
But, if we're honest with ourselves, the city holds an awful lot of cards, right? If you're a developer,
the city is going to
has
have
to be
all the
happy, or you don't
say,
get your...
which is the best part of it, right?
It's actually not, it's not a bad thing, and it governs some of our thought process, the fact that the city has so much control from a, zoning and regulation standpoint it helps ensure, we think this is the best project for the community anyway, but it helps ensure that.
Well, I would just say in terms of why this might be late is because I think the city learned that there was a problem with the project that this developer is handling in Manchester, where there's been like a 3-year delay in the project. I have no knowledge of any of this. I understand from Commissioner that you were aware of the lawsuit and the project, and I think the city at least is saying that they are just learning of this problem with the delayed development of the project in Manchester, concerned about what that might mean for this project. And so I understand why it's late, I guess. And also because this is the first time they're seeing the PNS, they don't know, they didn't have an opportunity to know before now that the specific concerns about the Memorial Field, the water tower, the homeless shelter had not been addressed in the PNS. So I mean, I'm not concerned that they're coming, you know, they're doing their due diligence and reading it as we all are and trying to figure it out. I just wondered if at the end of your conversation there was any resolution about how they would like us to proceed forward.
No, but again, I can't speak for Mary, there wasn't, other than just the acknowledgement that the city planner has been involved in all of this and had all the ability to review financial information and all of that. So the city has had that access to all that information. Why we're getting a letter, like literally morning of the vote, knowing that this is a huge transaction that's literally been in the works for 10 years, to put all that risk, I think, I don't know, I can't, I wouldn't speak for them.
If I could address just a couple specifics. So the lawsuit, we are running a lawsuit, and, you know, developers are often lawsuits. And it's not a judgment, it's a suit. I actually have copies of it's about to be settled. By the end of the year, there's a proposal, an agreement, paperwork to be signed, and I think that's happened about 2 weeks ago. So we're aware of that. In addition to that, we weren't overly concerned about it generally because we were aware of it and we were aware of what's going on. Is there a delay in a project? There is. So it's not the same team, right? There's some overlap. There's, Robin Alexander in particular was involved in that and is the lead in this as well. We do a lot of construction, right? And it's in the state, and you know the fact that during COVID and supply chain issues and rampant inflation, the project is at 3 years. The state has a lot of projects that are further behind than that. So we just aren't concerned about that piece of it. It's not a oh my God, they can't do this. They switched construction companies. Yeah, okay, I get that. There's a time and a place for that, and you know I can't get into the middle of the business to decide whether they should have or shouldn't have, and but sometimes you start with somebody and you finish with somebody else. The state's done that as well. And I think, we look at the lawsuit, and nobody, you know, people are aware of this, and nobody had any concern. And like I say, this is not a group that we talked to on paper, right? This is a group of people, multiple people. I mean, not just Robin Alexander, who's the principal, but Christy LaCroix and Dale Adams, and you know, some of the key components of actually the vision of the project. Met multiple times with the redevelopment commission. Met multiple times with the city. They have been to the property. They're not random people that we were like, I don't know, did you Google them? Or it's not that kind of thing. They're known commodities over quite a long period of time by people who are expert in various technical fields related to them.
And it's chosen by the city.
Yes.
They're part of the with choosing them, so.
No, and the city, and again, the city didn't go, they looked on paper. They've been out to Laconia meeting with various firms of the city. They're very confident.
Councilor Gatsas?
Thank you, Governor. $21 million project, the purchase of a...
$21 million purchase, not project.
Let me finish, Charlie. I know you have an answer that's taking your time. But it's a $21 million purchase on land.
Yes.
How much is the total project?
I don't know that we know that for sure, but I think we can estimate.
Excuse me, they made statements that they're prepared to spend upwards of $500 million.
$500 million. Did their financial statements say that they can do that?
What we've looked at is an investment team. So it's a project for which they're going to raise the money to do this. It's not a company that pre-exists and has $500 of cash flow. It's a developer. And so what they would have are financial teams. And if you look at the 3-4 members of their financial team, they have enormous wherewithal of a national and international scale, local.
Of those, did you say 3 or 4 people?
I think that the financial principles, I think 3 is the numbers. I don't know what else.
What do they own for a percentage of that LLC that we see before us that we're selling to? Legacy will cover.
I don't know that. I don't know that I would know that.
Why wouldn't you?
Well, would I?
I guess the first question I would ask is, what do they own for the percentage of legacy at Laconia? I guess I would want to know that answer.
We want to be assured that the team that's together, whatever their level of ownership interest, can manage the project. And we want to be assured that they can come up with $21 million to buy the property. That's what we're mostly.
But if you didn't ask the question of what is the percentage of ownership,
We did not.
then you wouldn't know that answer.
That's correct.
So I guess,
I did not answer that. I did not ask that question. You're right.
have you looked at personal financial statements?
No.
No reason to want a $500 million project.
We're not doing a $500 million project.
We're not a development partner. We're not a
Governor,
developer.
they still have to close on the $21 million.
Mm-hmm.
They have to close on it. If they don't close on that, then it's backing out of line.
We would know that pretty quick.
How would you know that very quick?
They don't write a check and it doesn't clear.
What is the closing date?
I think that has to be negotiated and worked out.
So you're asking this council to approve a deal, and we don't even know what the closing date is,
We're asking you to approve a purchase and sales.
without a closing date.
Well, we're coming to you early in the process so that you approve a purchase and sales, so we don't come to you with a fait accompli.
Well, I would rather see the entire deal in front of me so I can make a educated decision on the project. To say to me, you don't know what the closing date is, means it could linger for years.
I don't really think it could linger for years.
You don't know that.
I think we wouldn't go forward if it lingered for years.
You're asking this council to move forward, and you don't have a closing date.
I have a purchase and sales.
Yeah, this is a purchase and sales. Not all purchase and sales in real estate transactions have an applicant for If we
Governor,
wait-
I've done this a long time.
Yeah,
I have never been in front of a real estate deal that didn't have a closing date. The seller at that point would be insane to sign a purchase and sales.
That's not true. That is not true. That is absolutely not true.
Let me just ask you-
This is not a fly-by-night organization. These folks have other projects. And again, all of this was reviewed by a technical committee before bringing it here. Reviewed by the city of
I can't
Laconia.
support a sale without knowing what the closing date is. It makes no sense.
Let me, if I can, let Jared explain the due diligence considerations and all that, and we really don't believe that what we're doing is weird. And I think if he explains it, that might come out.
So the PNS provides for multiple due diligence periods if they need it, each 90 days. If they are satisfied after the first 90-day due diligence period, it could be closing in 4 months, 5 months. If they push that out for the full 2 90-day periods, plus whatever extra time it could potentially take to work through the Winnipesaukee River Basin program, to transfer flowage rights and all that kind of stuff, it could take much longer. We don't have an outside date because we've never had to transfer Winnipesaukee River Basin program outflow capacity before.
But if I mean, this situation and how the purchase and sales is structured would exist for regardless of who the winning developer may be. It's not, this isn't determined based on this development.
Correct. And actually, this is one of the shorter due diligence periods that was requested. Actually, this isn't a shorter due diligence period.
I think that we would, on any proposal, we would come to you with a purchase and sales agreement, and we would not have a date.
You would not?
Okay.
Councilor Wong.
I don't want to cut off the discussion, and I know Councilor Kenny hasn't spoken yet. I personally feel like this has been going on for many, many years, and that 2 more weeks makes sense to address the concerns that are coming up at the last minute, both in the media and by the city. I would not feel comfortable voting right now without speaking to the city and hearing what their concerns are. So again, if you want to have more conversation, especially reach out to you, Councilor Kenny. I don't want to cut it off, but I think I would like to move the table. You're done.
Okay, you want me to speak? We all know this project is transparent, as transparency exists in state government. From Commissioner Arlinghouse to the redevelopment, the Lakeshore Redevelopment Planning Commission, to the City of Laconia, to my office, to other people's offices, this has been transparent, this whole process. And I know that there have been many bites of the apple to try to sell this property over the last decade. Because when I came into the council in 2014, and Mayor Ed Engler said, "Do you know anything about the state property?" I didn't know a whole heck of a lot. I do today. And what I learned was there have been failed attempts to try to sell this property. From the City of Laconia to other groups, it just hasn't worked. We're now in a climate where real estate is going. There's excitement. If we're going to delay and we're going to lose momentum, then I think we're doing a disservice to the project. If we're going to say we're going to truly vote on this in 2 weeks from now, I don't have a problem with that. But I don't want this to be a stalling tactic. I want it to be informational from the City of Laconia. I want to make sure whatever other outstanding issues are there, that we answer them. But, like the governor said, this has been out here for a decade. We got to decide what we want to do with this property. Otherwise, we'll go back to ground zero. We'll pay $400,000 a year just to keep it open. And then we have to deal with the 911 building issue, which we have a solution to. We phased out the DRF. We've worked with all groups. We do have an issue with the Winnipesaukee Basin, and then we do have to make sure that this development knows, what their flowage rights that they have. But that would go on with any developer. I have no problem with looking at this for 2 weeks, but at the same time, I don't want this to be a stalling tactic, because I think the technical review committee, which was a City of Laconia, experts in the field, looked at this development team and said they can. And I have all the faith and confidence that they made the right decision to move forward. In that public hearing by the City of Laconia, there weren't many detractors at all. And some of these things that have come up at the last minute, some of it wasn't even brought out at that public hearing. But, we have an opportunity to encourage the developer to, hey, help out, the young people with parking for the Parks and Rec field. I'm sure they're going to do it. And we'll encourage them to do it. What I really like about this project is that it's got public open access to it. So the citizens of Laconia are going to be able to drive in and out of this development project. They're going to be a part of it. And there's going to be tax revenue, there's going to be housing, there's going to be jobs, there's going to be tremendous opportunity for the area. So I think, in general, the citizens of Laconia look at this and say, let's move forward, let's get it done. Let's get the politics out of it. Let's just roll up our sleeves and actually do this development job so that everybody will benefit and the state will benefit. So that's my position at this point.
Are you going to make a motion to table?
I just want to say, I also am excited about the project and have been following along from the beginning. I do think, though, that 2 more weeks is just a reasonable time to hear from the city about what their concerns are, because we believe the mayor is out of the country right now. So I would motion to table.
All right, we've motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of tabling item, what item?
96A.
Item 96A, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item 96A.
Can I get financials on this group? So
I can send you the financial information that was part of the offer. Absolutely.
It has to be held in confidence. It's like, that has to be really, really clear.
It's an important point to be made. Anything I send you, you need to keep in confidence.
I said, there's no one behind me that's going to look at it.
Just make sure whatever we set out, we just make sure that all the confidence.
I want to propose tabling, I want to make that.
Oh, sure, thank you.
And they've had plenty of time, the mayor.
No discussion on the table.
Yeah. No, but I can ask for Council Stevens. The motion's done. Yeah.
The mayor submitted a letter back in September 22nd, expressing the terms of communication, and Derby was referenced in there. So it's not a new issue, is what I'm getting at. And DES brings a lot of great work and support to the developers.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, so can I get a motion to adopt agenda item 97 from the Department of State? Any discussion? Oh,
I have a question on the constitutional amendment.
oh boy.
It doesn't say in here whether they passed or not. I was wondering if it should say that. And I know the answer to that.
I'm going to look
Because the numbers, but you don't have to be
Can we go to the Attorney General's office?
Is it 60 or 60?
I don't know the answer to that.
Can you repeat the question, just respond to the
It
Attorney
just
General?
doesn't say here what it requires to pass and whether either one of these pass. It just has the numbers, and we know that a simple majority isn't enough. So I'm just wondering if you can comment on whether these pass or fail.
I want to look at that. I mean, especially given the supermajority requirement, it seems like the numbers are not deep, but I don't know.
Well, I don't intend to table this.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I
Well,
think
we can-
that should be in the information that whether these pass or fail.
Okay, we can make sure it's included, even, maybe include in the minutes?
Sure.
Okay, we'll do that. So let's make a note to include the actual results. Good point.
That should be more than sufficient.
Okay, as long as we go. Any other questions on that? Okay, all in favor of item 97, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, 97 is approved. The only table item we have has been removed from the Department of Environment. Spoke too late. Hey, well, it did pass, but maybe you just, the item that was brought forward from the Department of Secretary of State's office, item number 97, as Council Warren has pointed out. Sorry, go
It
ahead.
doesn't say on here what the requirements were to pass and whether we pass or fail. It just says the raw numbers, and of course, we all know the majority is insufficient, so I just wondered if that shouldn't have been included in here. We passed the other anyway.
I appreciate that. The constitutional questions that were on the ballot did not pass. The one related to the register of probate required a two-thirds vote of the voting of the voters. The question on whether we should have a constitutional convention simply required a majority vote, and we did not receive that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll include it in the... Okay, with that, the meeting is concluded.